Hi, my name is Christophe Panzani. I play saxophone and I compose music.
Where are you calling from today? I know you travel quite a bit.
Uh, yeah, I'm in Spain right now. I'm in Spain because my wife is Spanish, and with all the things that happened lately, most of my work has been canceled. So we've been able to take almost a month off, and I mean we've been forced to.
Hmm.
So we're spending 1 month at her family in Spain, and I got myself a little something that looks like a studio. Uh, I mean, I don't know if I can turn that around. I have no
Oh,
idea.
that's okay. I can kind of get a sense of the space. It looks like the acoustics might be pretty cool in there.
Yeah, it's actually it's like it was a house that they never finished, you know.
Oh, okay. Is that a
And
ping pong table?
yeah, there's a ping pong table. And I managed to bring some of my gear
Hmm.
and a mic and my computer and just one horn. I just have my tenor saxophone, but it's enough to work and to practice. So I've been able to produce some music here.
Great. I noticed on your feed, on your social media feed, that you do experiment with effects. And
Yeah, a
but
lot.
your album, your previous album on Spotify, I don't know if I'm gonna butcher this or not. It's Les Mauvais Tempéraments. Temperament.
Yes,
That
yes,
is very. It's more of a traditional sounding album. So it's
yeah.
interesting that
You're right.
yeah that you yeah.
Except of one track. There's just one track where I authorized myself to try some different things with Bigyuki. I don't know if you know him.
I do.
Uh, so there's just one track in the album where I processed we recorded the piano in different layers, and then I processed the different parts of the piano into my effects, like a live thing, and I recorded like this. So and then I played over some effects on the saxophone too. But
So
yeah, but
is that track kind of a precursor to future more electronic sounding music?
yeah, yes. Or actually, it's a way to link what I've been doing on myself. Like there's two duet piano saxophone albums. There's Les Mauvais Tempéraments and the one before called Les Âmes perdues.
Hmm.
And these two albums are mainly acoustic and live recording. I mean, live recording, like no doubling, nothing, just piano and saxophone. Um, but on I have other bands, uh, co-leaded bands, and where I use a lot of effects. So I've never used it in my, like my own thing, and yes, you can say that it's a way to start to introduce it into my personal things.
That's interesting because pedal effects, or even if it's in the box, I think is a very new space for wind instrument players. So it's interesting. So do you think that it's a viable way to bring out the like the sax? I haven't heard obviously I haven't heard your new stuff, but is that are you still keeping the original sound of the saxophone and you're just kind of layering on top of it, or
It depends. I can you I like to make the sound disappearing too, like to you listen to it and you don't even know there's a saxophone playing any
Mhm.
parts of it. Um, because lately I've been experimenting a lot with the Enzo by Maris. You know it?
Yeah, I know the
It's
Maris company. Yeah.
yeah. So they have one. It's called Enzo,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's this one,
cool.
and it's like a synth.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like a synth, but you can mix your dry sound and your wet sound directly into the pedal. So you can use all the filters and things from like a analog synth, but you can play like 100% wet, and you have no saxophone sound, but still you have all the inflections, all the phrasing, and so it make it sound weird, because it make it sound like a someone who would play uh, uh, like a lead synth or bass synth, but
Mm-hmm.
with actual uh, woodwind or wind phrasing, you know. So people don't recognize it. They're like, uh, what is this sound? What synth do you use? And then they say, oh, I'm just using my saxophone. They're like, wow. And we just released a new project, but it's more like an EP that we've been doing with a friend uh, during the confinement, the lockdown, and it's I use a lot of the Marys and other stuff. So I'm gonna send you the link, and then you're gonna
Oh,
see.
okay.
Sometimes you hear saxophone, obviously, but sometimes it's more you don't really know. And my friend is a piano player and keyboardist, and
Mm-hmm.
so now when I listen to it, sometimes I don't know who's playing what, because I play chords too.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't know. That's I mean, right now, um, I have no idea, but I'm trying to. It's a good way to experiment for me. I
Sure.
have right now I have two ways of experimenting things. One is this book.
Oh yeah.
It's Messiaen, Olivier Messiaen, famous composer, and because I'm trying to. I'm releasing an album in October, beginning of October, which is more a research based on French classical music from the first half of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
So with these guys, Messiaen, Ravel, Satie, and I mean, I don't do anything new. I'm just trying to get deep into the harmonic stuff, and find some ways of expressing my or constructing or developing my language
Mm-hmm.
through classical harmony, and at the same time through electronic music and uh, different ways of making uh, I mean make making sounding the saxophone, or making sound the saxophone.
That's very interesting, and it's exciting for me because I know that you can play the saxophone very well. Like all your phrasing is very articulate, and that's something that I like. I listen for when I listen to jazz music is that with the solo work or even just throughout the song, if the playing's nice and crisp and articulate, then I know the artist knows what there's the intention is there, and I would prefer someone who's like that to experiment with pedal effects, rather than someone who doesn't play that well, because some artists will hide behind the effects,
Uh-huh.
and they'll
Yeah.
they'll they'll let the effects kind of distract the listener,
Yeah.
and so.
I see your point. Yeah, October, it's like a classical album.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's based on classical material. Uh, half from French composers and half from my compositions, and it's with a string quartet and a woodwind quintet.
Cool.
And a jazz quintet, and so that's very acoustic, very classical, and just based on the I don't know, research about harmony into classical music, and the bridge between classical music and jazz music, focused on the harmony and compositional point of view. And the other one, the EP is out already, so I'm gonna send you the link, and then you can listen to it.
Great. I wanted to talk about the inspiration behind your previous two albums, because there's a bit of like a little bit of melodrama in it, and it's very subdued, but also the artwork is very interesting. I was supposed to talk to Ludwig,
Yeah.
and he said that his internet connection is not very reliable at the moment, so I haven't been able to, and I think I might just do a Q&A with him. But the artwork is very interesting, so I just thought if it was more like, you know, you guys have a previous relationship, so that it was very easy for you to just ask him to come up with something, or was there premeditated, you had a concept of how you wanted to present your album, and then you chose his type of artwork, because his artwork is very specific. Like, it's very you couldn't just use that on anything, you know what I mean?
No,
So,
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
so it's a little bit kind of surreal, a little bit psychedelic. So
Yeah,
I wanted to ask
exactly.
what your inspiration was behind those albums.
So I didn't know Ludovic before meeting him for the first album. I'm a big fan of comics, and but I didn't know his name, because I quit on comics years ago, and then I'm back at it. But I've been into some other things for a long time, but I always loved comics, and when we worked on the first album with the label manager, he asked me if I had an idea for the cover and the artwork, and yes, I had a very specific ideas in mind, because les âmes perdues means the lost souls, and it was 2015, and it was very troubled times in France. We had two major terrorist attacks in Paris. It was very scary and very sad and troubling, and me, like many other friends or other people in France, it changed us. It changed us in many ways, and it made me think differently about a lot of things, you know, because like the Charlie, you know, the newspaper was attacked, Charlie Hebdo. I used to read this newspaper from my late teens, you know, when I was a teenager, like 16 or 17 years old. 16, 17 years old. I was reading that newspaper, and till now, you know. And this guy, they just went in and they shoot at everyone, and so, and this journalist, and they were like I don't know how to say that. You know, people who drawers, like they do drawings on newspaper, like you know, caricature. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah. Cartoonist.
So this guy, yeah, exactly, cartoonist. They were like very famous one, like Cabu. this guy was working on a show, on a TV show for kids when I was kid. You know? So I knew this guy forever because he was drawing like little cartoons for for babies, for kids. You know, this guy was a very fun and nice guy, and so he was a part of my culture forever. You know, and also he was a big fan, a big jazz fan. So he did drawings uh, for jazz albums, and you know, that was and I mean, all these guys were very funny and very intelligent, and so they were killed like this, and it was really a shock, you know. So, and actually, the second terrorist attack in Paris, when they went into the big venue, and they killed a lot of people there during a concert. And I was recording the day after one of the songs on the album Les Âmes perdues, and that was something very special to do that at this right moment, you know. And so I had all that in mind, and that's what I call the album The Lost Soul, because it's, you know, like all the people who were dead for nothing, for no reason, or all the people who did that for their reasons that can't you can't really understand. That's beyond all you can. I mean, that's beyond all I can imagine. You know? Like the motivation you have to do such a terrible and crazy thing, and I mean, so I had this idea about Icarus, you know, the myth, yeah, who tried to reach the sun flying, and he lost the feathers, and then he fall and he died like this. So I had this picture in mind, and I wanted that picture, and I wanted that to be the cover, and I wanted to have a drawing with that. And then the label manager told me about Ludovic, and he said, I think this guy would be the perfect match for what you have in mind and your music. So he organized a meeting with Ludovic, and yes, that was a very special meeting, and I love this guy, and since then I've been reading a lot of his comics, and he's musician too. He plays guitar, and he's an incredible artist, and he has a very authentic and special way of expressing things and drawing. He has a but then he wanted to add my face on it, because that was my first official album on my name. So and so he turned all that into the artwork that you see. And then after that, for the next one, it was very obvious to me that I wanted to have Ludovic again, because it was like the following of the first one, you know. And I just spoke with him about the concept of the album, which was temperaments. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's the way of tuning instruments and tuning keyboards from like for the beginning of the keyboards until Bach, you know, Johann Sebastian Bach.
Yeah.
So for all the history until Bach, there was many different ways to tune keyboards, because it was based on natural resonating sounds, you know, like a natural fifth, natural fourth, and you know, like I don't know, the waves, you know, like it,
frequency.
So and then Bach did the the clavier bien tempéré, well-tempered keyboard, you know, big suite of 24 pieces in all the keys, and to show that you could play in all the 12 keys. Because before that, with the temperaments, it was sounding weird when you go from a tonality to another, a key to another one, you know, like going from C major to F sharp major. With the same temperament, F sharp major was sounding very bad or very strange, you know, because of the way of tuning it. Right. So then after that, the histories, like they just stopped, and they did the tuning, the equal tuning. So every half step is the same, right. But before that wasn't the same, you know. So I fall into that hole because it's a mind-blowing thing, you know, because now just the baroque music, I don't know how do you say that, you know, that's baroque right. music. Yeah. So these ensembles and harpsichords, they still use temperament. So they still use non-equal ways of tuning keyboards and instruments, but only them, and nothing in contemporary music, you know. So it's always, you have this sound with the music from the 16th century or 17th or 18th century, but you don't have this sound with music from our century. So I wanted to experiment with that ways of tuning the keyboards and compose with these strange ways of tuning the keyboard. So I found a way to do it on the computer, and then I didn't know if any piano tuner would be able to do it, you know. Right. So then I found someone who was ready to experiment it too, because he never did it, and it's very rare for piano tuner. They don't do that because they are trained to do the exact equal thing. So when you ask them to go to a natural fifth or natural fourth and a natural major third, they're like, I don't want that. You know, it's too weird. So I found that guy that was a young guy, was really enjoying trying to mess around with that. And then we did the album. He came to the studio and we had 3 pianos, like a grand and half and upright. So he tuned the 2 of them in equal temperament, and the half he tuned it in a non-equal temperament. So, and then I made the half of the album is recorded with this piano, and half of the album is recorded in a equal way of tuning the piano. So that was the concept. Oh, sorry, I lost my I lost the path. But speaking, so then I spoke with that with Ludovic, you know, because he asked me what's the concept of the album. So I told that to him, but I didn't know if he even knew what was the temperament or what was the history of stuff. And actually, he loved it, and he is very interested in it too. And so he knew very well the history of all that. And so we had a very long discussion, and it was very interesting. And then he said, yeah, of course, I want to do that cover, and I have a lot of ideas. And the double thing, the double face of the cover, it's the result of the discussion, because I told him I wanted to do the album in circle, you know, starting from a point and going to another one. So it starts with the tune, and then it ends with the same tune. Right. But it's the first one is recorded with a piano equal temperament. So every half step is equal, and it ends with the same tune, but playing with the temperaments not equal. So the tuning is not equal. And the idea is like, because the problem of tuning in natural ways, so with natural fifth, natural fourth, and etc., is that at the end you don't end the circle at the same point. You go from C, if you tune every fifth, so C, G, D, blah 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 blah, and you do the whole circle. When you come back, the C is not the same C as where you started. It's a slightly different, but it's not the same. So it's destroy your piano, you know, because if you play the like a scale, it goes like this, you know.
Sure.
So it's very weird. So I had this thing, you know, playing something, and you think it's the same thing, but then when you arrive at the end, you're not the same anymore.
Right.
So we had this double phase thing, and one is slightly different than the other. That was the idea.
That's cool. As a listener, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten that just from listening to it, but as a listener, how I interpreted it was that you know, something's just not quite right, and melodically, I think it reflected something that was just slightly off-putting that you wouldn't notice unless you paid attention. And so that's the concept. That's how I conceptualize the music when I listened to it. So it's interesting, and so thank you for giving me the context, because you know these albums I think are so rich with history, and it's like historically very significant. And I think not a lot of people put that amount of forethought into making their music. You know, I talked to some people and they said, you know, they don't have a reason. They said, you know, I just felt like making an album, but then there's probably a lack of consistency. So I was just saying that I'm thankful for artists like you, because you're bringing the saxophone into a new space. And a lot of the times jazz is so misunderstood. Like a lot of people who only listen to pop think that jazz is just Kenny G and smooth jazz, and it's so many other things. And throughout my life, I think no other music is able to express a complex set of emotions like jazz can. And you, coming from a bit of a classical background, that you're also bringing both back into the forefront, and I think that's important. And so I think it's really cool what you're doing. And I just wanted to wrap up with maybe talking about a bit about what your gear looks like in studio versus in a live setting, because I know some people don't bring their studio gear to a live setting. And then just maybe to touch on that.
Sure. So now with this, it's a little bit different. Okay, can you see some of the things?
Yeah, I can. So Akai MPK Mini.
Oh, this just for traveling, you know. Oh, it's just when I'm traveling, I'm using this to play piano, mainly to record piano parts, composing, arranging stuff. So it's just my traveling gear. That's for traveling. Or for on stage too. When I play a lot with this band for like 5 years now. It's the band of a French drummer. She's a girl. Her name is Anne Passeo. And we're using MIDI keyboards to be able to play more stuff. So like one singer has a keyboard, I have a keyboard, and we all play through one computer with main stage. So, you know, so there's just one source with multiple keyboards, and we just have different sounds on the keyboard. So I like this keyboard because it's very useful. You can do a lot of different things. And I'm starting now to use it with for solo thing that I'm working on now, and it's to control the looper, because I'm experimenting with a French guy who made a great, amazing soft for loop for live performance.
Cool, but that doesn't have XLR output, right? So how do you
No,
how do
no,
you
so
mix?
it's just a controller. So it's
Oh,
a
okay.
MIDI controller, and
I see.
like you wanna start a loop, you wanna um, you want to change the pan, you want to change the level of different tracks, you want to come back, you want to mute, you can assign all the different functions to all the different
Cool.
buttons you have on the keyboard. So it's very simple, very
Right.
useful.
Right.
For sound gear on the studio, I use the Arrow from Universal Audio, which is here.
Cool. Yeah, I can see that.
I love that. I really love this thing because it's small, and it's very well made. It has a great uh, preamps, and like a converter, great converter to go to analog to digital thing. It's just two in and two outs, but for me it's perfect because I only record mainly saxophone or bass clarinet or flute. So when I record bass clarinet, that's when I use two mic. But when I record saxophone, I mainly use one mic. Sometimes on the soprano, I use two mics too, because for the high and the low, kind of uh, kind of sounds better with two different mics sometimes. So I don't record more than two mics at the same time. So the RO is perfect for me. And he has two very how do you say that? You had a lot of sorry, I lost the word for it. You can download online a lot of like reverbs, a lot of effects, like preamps and stuff that Universal Audio develops, and so then you use. Yeah, exactly. And then it's everything is processed in the gear and not in the computer. So it makes your computer free to do a lot of different stuff. Cool. So that works fine. Then on the live thing, when I use effects, I have a very small AQ 6 band, but it's very useful because I play through amps, like guitar amps, all the time. So that's not very common for saxophone. But with the effects, I think it's very efficient playing through an amp than playing through a PA. It doesn't react, it doesn't trick the effects the same way. But sometimes I have to adjust the EQ to get a okay sound.
Right.
I mean, okay sax sound, like a kind of acoustic sax sound into the amp. But I don't really. You asked me that question earlier, but I don't really care about the sax sound.
Yeah,
when I use effects, I'm the acoustic sound of the sax. I don't really care of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because it's more about making something different. So I'm going through the effects. It's not to get a perfect acoustic saxophone sound. So then I have the Autobeat Junior from Maris here. Yep. Oh, by the way, I saw what you do with animation in 3D.
Yeah, right.
I saw the tensor.
Yes.
Looks great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really liked it. I
It's
really liked it.
that one is a very difficult pedal because it's hard to keep track of the sound that you're making
Yeah,
and what the pedal is doing. You have to
yeah,
listen. You have to write it down because
yeah.
it's so difficult. But anyway, thank you. Yeah.
So the auto beat, it's a beat crusher.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. Actually, now I'm using it more like a distortion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not a distortion. So the sound is not a distortion, but I use it as a, if you do a solo, you go crazy,
Mm-hmm.
like a guitar player would go with a distortion like very hard, like, and I use this thing in that way,
Cool.
but it's, for me, I like it more than the distortion for the saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you have a lot of different ways of using it. Uh, I like Marys like more and more, but the only problem is that they're very expensive, so I can't buy a lot of it. But otherwise, I would buy a lot of these because they're very very good.
Cool.
So then I have a Eventide H9.
Mm-hmm.
It's very basic now. Everyone use it because it's how do you say? You say Swiss Army knife,
Yeah.
like
Does
multi
everything.
tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use mostly I use for harmonics,
Mm-hmm.
harmony. Like playing four, 4 or 5 lines at the same times. Like playing chords basically. Uh, that's my main use for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying now to experiment more about like um, uh, how to create chords like with large scale,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and how to go through one chord to another and being able to change the nature of the chords and change the keys and with a very fluid way. And it's not easy. So I'm working on that now.
Cool.
Then I have the Enzo Maris,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. It's the last one I bought, and it's amazing. I can spend hours and hours playing with this one. And then I have a Strymon El Capistan. Now it's a basic uh, delay. And then I have, it's not plugged, but I have a Flint by Strymon too. It's a reverb and a trem, so it has both. It's very useful. And I have other stuff too, but for my traveling gear, I took less things, but
Those are top of the line. Those are top notch pedals. Those are awesome. What about
yeah.
what's your main horn?
Tenor.
What make is it?
It's a Selmer.
Summer, very nice.
Here. It's a old super balanced.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's my baby. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. I have hard rubber mouthpiece from Fred Lebel.
Mm-hmm.
Lebel is a French guy who lived in Brooklyn for many years, but I think he's back in France now. Many people used to or still using his mouthpiece, like Branford, Marsalis, Wayne, uh, Michael Brecker used to play with Fred's mouthpiece too. I mean, Melissa Aldana. I mean, many players use it. I really like it, and it's handmade, and he made it just for me. Like I know him for a long time, so I went to his place, and we spent a day trying to find the best combinations of things for me. So I really love this mouthpiece.
On the mouthpiece and the one company I think from France that I have been trying to get a hold of to do these meetings is Sios. I don't know if you're
Yes.
familiar.
Yeah.
And some people really, really like their mouthpieces. Some people are not on board yet, and obviously you're using a high-end sort of custom mouthpiece, and that's, I guess, another way to do it custom, but it's 3D printed, so it has a whole set of different outcomes, I think, for the sound. But is that something that you have experimented with, or do you like your mouthpiece so much that you're not going to mess with it? Because I know once you have a good setup, you probably don't want to recalibrate.
I have friends that they always looking for the perfect mouthpiece or ligature or reeds, or they're changing and searching all the time. Me, I'm more like lazy with that. So once I found something that I like, I'm not very curious to try other things, because I don't really know how to try it neither, I'm not good at trying saxophones. I'm not good at trying mouthpiece. Or I just feel comfortable or not, but by using it. So it's with time. I can't go to a shop and try a mouthpiece and then buy it, because I have to be able to play it for a long time, and that's why I worked for years with Fred Lebel, because I can always go back to him and say, I can't do this, or this thing doesn't work when in the low register or in the high register, and then he can adjust. So, but I mean, when they started the Sios thing, I wanted to try, and we spoke to organize a meeting, and then it didn't happen. I hadn't any time to go visit them, but I want to try, and I want to go, and I'm sure I will.
Fred Lebel, he made the mouthpiece and the ligature also?
He used to make the ligature. I don't know if he still does, but maybe you saw some picture. I think it's Melissa Aldana who had many pictures with it. There's a ring around the mouthpiece with a different shape. I don't know if I still have it here. No, it's somewhere else. I don't have it.
Okay. That's okay.
But now I use a Van Doren ligature. Very simple.
Cool. I just wanted to end on just quickly summarizing. So you mentioned you're coming out with the album in October. Can you tell us the name of the album?
Yeah, it's called Les Correspondances. The correspondences. I don't know. It's between it, because in French it's the same word to say two things that are similar or look similar, and the same way it's a same word to say when you exchange letters with someone.
Okay.
So it's both both tenses. It's the same word, and so it's the two ideas between jazz world and classical French world at the same time in the early 40s, 50s, 60s.
I really appreciate the work that you do, so I want to do whatever I can to try to promote your work.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate any help is welcome, because how did you heard about the music?
Well, so I have a very eclectic taste. So I listen to a lot of different styles of music. Pop, R&B, hip hop. But at the root, I was trained as a kid growing up. I was trained classically and on piano, and then in high school and later on, I learned jazz, self-taught jazz. I taught myself how to play the clarinet and the saxophone, and so when I listen to Spotify, I get a mix of different, depending on what my mood is, and if I happen to be listening to jazz but with a bit of a more contemporary flair, then it'll start recommending artists that are trying, that are kind of like trending and trying different things, and then you came up, and also because I listened to Bigyuki also, so I guess it kind of somehow, I don't know how the algorithm works, but it made the connection. And I was like, oh wow, this is really good. This is stuff that I would definitely listen to, and I wanted to meet you. So I'm
Thanks
happy
a lot.
I'm able to. Yeah, great. I get into it, so I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, take care, and chat soon.
You too.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.